Hey Kaiju fans, I'm the King of the Monsters, and today we'll be taking an in-depth look at the ultimate life form, Godzilla Earth. The end result of natural selection on Earth, Godzilla evolved from plant-based life to become the largest and most powerful organism in the planet's history. First emerging in 2030, he laid waste to human civilization and resisted every attempt to stop him, even methods provided by the Exif and Saludo aliens. 15,000 survivors opted to flee the Earth in search of a new homeworld in 2048. Now unopposed, Godzilla established himself as the sole ruler of Earth. He terraformed the planet to his liking, while multiple new species derived from his own genome arose. When one of the emigration ships, Aratrum, returned to Earth after 20,000 years, its occupants found their home almost unrecognizable. They attempted to carry out an operation to exterminate Godzilla and take back the planet, but only succeeded in killing Godzilla Filius, a younger subspecies. The original had evolved into an overwhelming force, the 300-meter-tall Godzilla Earth. As the Exif and Saludo pursued their own agendas, humanity began to view him as a necessary evil. Godzilla Filius' name is derived from the Latin word for sun, while Godzilla Earth's name symbolizes his dominion over the planet after 20,000 years. In contrast to all previous iterations of the character, Godzilla Earth's design was based on trees rather than reptiles. Rather than aiming for something anatomically accurate, this version was meant to be imposing. Co-director Kobun Shizuno elaborated, stating that trees are currently the largest and most widespread organisms on Earth, with the ability to live for thousands of years while typically requiring only light and water to survive. Furthermore, trees contain trace elements and generate electrons when performing photosynthesis. This influenced Godzilla Earth's electromagnetic abilities. In Shizuno's words, "We expanded from the idea of if a plant had undergone superevolution due to its cellular structure, perhaps containing metallic elements, and its whole body became a power generator as a result. In this Planet of the Monsters, I thought Godzilla would be like a huge world tree at the center of its unique environment." The anime's other director, Hiroyuki Seshita, prepared concept sketches of Godzilla to develop the silhouette of his body. Anigoji's design was intended to take the basic silhouette of the Big G and combine it with new unique traits specific to the anime. For example, his body was made especially muscular, inspired by Kongo Rikishi statues, in order to express his sheer power and invoke the hugeness of trees, while reflecting his status as the apex lifeform on Earth and a godlike figure. There were several unique head designs created for Godzilla, each experimenting with different unique facial features, which ranged from horns to Varan-inspired facial fins. Ultimately, the designers opted to give the monster a row of spikes on his chin, which resembled a beard. Despite being a plant, he was given blue, human-like eyes to convey a sense of intelligence, such as that of a philosopher. Seshita's concept designs were organized into multiple potential interpretations by modeling supervisor Mitsunori Katama, and were then sculpted into virtual maquettes. Eiji Kawada created the texture and color for the Godzilla model, taking care to add details such as accumulated moss, dirt, and fine scratches. Godzilla's signature ability is his atomic breath. A charged electromagnetic particle beam, it does not actually fire from the monster's mouth directly, but rather from immediately in front of it. This thin and precise beam is incredibly powerful, dispatching most monsters or leveling major cities in a single hit. Its energy output is measured as 3 terawatts. Godzilla used a more powerful red spiral-shaped variant of his atomic breath in 2042 to destroy Gorath, a 30-kilometer wide asteroid with a mass comparable to the Moon. The spiral breath had an observed range of 300 kilometers. The source of Godzilla's invincibility is his asymmetrically permeable shield, an electromagnetic field generated from a biological amplifier in his dorsal fins and supported by his cells, which act as powerful electromagnets. It protects the monster from all harm, from projectiles to nuclear explosions. Even in the absence of his shield, the King of Monsters demonstrates incredible durability due to the multi-layered foam structure of his epidermis, which contains metallic muscle fibers that support his weight in the absence of a skeleton. More than just difficult to pierce, his flesh provides superior heat resistance that can protect him from a point-blank nuclear detonation even without his shield. Godzilla's cells possess a rapid healing factor, allowing his tissue to repair itself in a matter of seconds in the rare instance it is damaged. Moreover, the healing factor allows his cells to propagate when separated from his body, causing other lifeforms to incorporate his DNA and mimic him. The metallic plants found in the Tanzawa forest, along with subspecies such as the Servum amphileus, were a result of this. Godzilla's body constantly emits high-density radiation, leaving areas in his wake uninhabitable. Other kaiju seemed attracted to this radioactive contamination, as they often appeared in areas which he had already passed. Despite this, his radiation is barely observable, making him difficult to track in this manner. For a creature of his size, Godzilla possesses remarkable stealth capabilities. His body absorbs radio waves, so he doesn't show up on radar or other targeting systems except when firing his atomic breath. Godzilla swims incredibly quickly underwater, exceeding the speeds of the most advanced submarines of the 2040s, even evading detection from EXIF and Billasaluto technology. In his 300-meter form, Godzilla Earth demonstrates a super oscillatory wave, a resonance phenomenon he causes by roaring at an incredibly high volume, which crushes and destroys targets. Another such new ability for Earth is the Plasma Cutter, a powerful shockwave he generates by swinging his tail at speeds of Mach 3 to 4, destroying anything in its path within a 600-meter range. One swing obliterated nearly all of the United Earth's forces. Beyond the Plasma Cutter, Godzilla's tail itself is a useful appendage, acting as an additional limb that supports his massive body. While never demonstrated in the movies, the monster's tail is fully prehensile and can be extended to wrap around other objects like a tentacle or used as a stabbing weapon due to the sharp spike on its tip. On screen, he used his tail to destroy several of the tower-like structures flanking the tunnel leading to Mechagodzilla City. Godzilla's shield must be bypassed in order for an attacker to even attempt to damage him. Mothra forced the Big G to retreat during their 2048 battle because her scales interfered with his shield and reflected his atomic breath back at him, successfully injuring him. The monster's shield temporarily collapses whenever it is deployed, presenting a brief window of attack. Haruo Sakaki's anti-Godzilla plan called for the amplifying organ in his dorsal fins to be attacked in this moment, lowering his shield long enough for EMP probes to be injected into him and overload his body with electromagnetic energy. This plan was effective against the smaller Phileas and caused him to explode, but failed against Godzilla Earth due to his having developed an adaptation that rendered it ineffective. He could convert the excess energy into heat exceeding 1000 degrees Celsius, preventing him from overloading. This kept the vultures at bay, giving him time to regenerate. Still, Belubei believed Earth's explosion could be triggered in this state if he fired his atomic breath or was struck with a high-speed impact to his dorsal fin. Haruo denied him the chance to see if he was right. Ghidorah bypassed Godzilla's shield and absorbed the heat given off by his energy conversion, resulting from the three-headed dragon's capacity to bypass this dimension's laws of physics. Godzilla was helpless against Ghidorah until Haruo severed Metphius' connection to the Golden King. Now subject to this dimension's laws, Ghidorah was swiftly forced back by the King of Monsters. In 2030, biology professor Kyohei Yamane was called to Odo Island to investigate the carcass of the monster Kamibus 4, which had washed ashore. Yamane concluded that it had been killed by a larger predator and gave this hypothetical creature the name Godzilla after a legendary dragon from the island's folklore. Godzilla soon came ashore in Los Angeles, where he killed Anguirus 4, Baragon 2, and Varan 2 simultaneously. After demolishing LA and San Francisco, he returned to the sea. The monster resurfaced on the west coast of the United States the following year, destroying Seattle and routing the military in Colorado. As he passed through the Midwest, the US government desperately hurled 150 nuclear warheads at the monster, but only succeeded in wiping multiple states off the map. Godzilla disappeared into the Gulf of Mexico until 2034, when he invaded Western Europe. After devastating Paris, monsters such as Gorosaurus and Zilla appeared in his wake to further menace the citizens of France. The same month Godzilla departed Western Europe, the larval Batra emerged from his sleep in South America. Sensing each other's presence, they battled at least twice, with the Big G ultimately proving victorious. Detecting the approach of the Gorath asteroid, Godzilla vanished into the Arctic Ocean to store up enough energy to destroy it before it struck Earth. Finally, in 2042, he emerged from the Arctic ice and obliterated the asteroid with a more powerful crimson spiral-shaped version of his atomic breath. Over the next 2 years, the King of Monsters became increasingly active and targeted the United Earth more directly. Multiple attempts to stop him, ranging from Operation Great Wall to the Bilisaluda weapon Mechagodzilla, did little to stop him, or failed utterly. The United Earth became so desperate that it approved a plan to evacuate 15,000 citizens aboard 2 spacecraft, the Oratio and Oratrum. Seemingly aware of this plan, the Big G arrived in South America in time to nearly intercept the Oratrum before it could take off. A nuclear strike held him at bay long enough for the ship to escape. Godzilla turned his attention to the remnants of the United Earth left behind, who walled themselves in Buenaventura. Upon reaching the Colombian city, he was confronted by Mothra, who forced him to retreat by reflecting his own atomic breath back at him. Mothra worked with the remnants to relocate her eggs to Japan to defend future generations of humanity there, but Godzilla caught the transport at sea. Mothra held him off long enough to ensure the success of Operation Cradle, but at the cost of her own life. After finding its destination of Tau-E uninhabitable, the Oratrum used its warp drives to return to Earth, where 20,000 years had now passed. Terraformed by Godzilla, the planet was barely recognizable, while the King of Monsters was still active in what was once Japan. Captain Haruo Sakaki, who blamed the monster for the deaths of his parents, presented a plan to kill him and allow humanity to reclaim the Earth. Following the successful carrying out of this strategy, the United Earth pieced together that the monster they killed was not the same Godzilla who had driven them from the Earth so long ago. It was a smaller subspecies formed from his cell division. The original, now grown into the 300-meter Godzilla Earth, erupted from the ground moments later and effortlessly wiped out the United Earth's forces. Haruo and many of the other survivors of Godzilla Earth's attack were rescued by the Hotuo, descendants of the humans who had relocated to Japan with Mothra's egg. After learning that the Hotuo were harvesting nanometal, the metal used to build Mechagodzilla, from a nearby location, the surviving soldiers made their way to the foot of Mount Fuji to recover enough to combat Godzilla. What they found instead was Mechagodzilla City, the result of MG's surviving nanometal remaining active for 20 millennia and rebuilding its production facility. The Bilisaluda took command of the city and converted it into a Godzilla execution device, which could carry out Haruo's plan on a large enough scale to be effective against the 300-meter King of Destruction. As preparations were nearly complete, the monster located Mechagodzilla City and began approaching it. Haruo, Master Sergeant Yuko Tani, and Major Rilu Elu Belube distracted Godzilla using flying mechs called vultures and lured him to a trap point where he was dropped into a tunnel leading directly to the city. The monster progressed through it until liquid nanometal immobilized him. Once his shield collapsed, Mechagodzilla City's railguns destroyed his dorsal fins. EMP harpoons were launched into his back, overloading him with electromagnetic energy. Rather than explode as Phileas had, Godzilla Earth began glowing bright red and emitting intense heat. He'd adapted to convert the excess energy into heat, meaning the vultures now had to ram his dorsal plate from the atmosphere to attempt to get him to explode. However, Haruo learned that the Bilisaludo intended to use Mechagodzilla City's nanometal to assimilate the entire planet, and made the decision to destroy its control room instead. This allowed Godzilla to recover and promptly destroy the rest of the city with his atomic breath. After Mechagodzilla City's failure, Exif Archbishop Metphius began to appeal to a higher power to vanquish Godzilla, the Exif god, Ghidorah. Upon gathering a cult-like following, he carried out a ritual to summon Ghidorah into this dimension. The three-headed energy entity's first action was to destroy the Oratrum in orbit, killing all aboard before descending to the Earth. Godzilla confronted him, but his atomic breath inexplicably curved around his body. Furthermore, none of his physical attacks could connect with Ghidorah, while Ghidorah bypassed Godzilla's shield in biting him. The King of Monsters proceeded to be lifted into the air, and when he attempted to convert his energy into heat, Ghidorah simply absorbed it. Haruo realized that Metphius was behind this and confronted him, managing to escape his psychic influence and shatter the Garbatrium bead connecting the Exif to Ghidorah. The higher dimensional monster became subject to this dimension's physics and released Godzilla, who did not hesitate to dispatch him back to the void from whence he came. Haruo grew to realize that humanity had a second chance to embrace the Hotua's way of life and live in harmony with nature, therefore no longer incurring Godzilla's wrath. But for as long as Haruo lived, the desire for vengeance would remain, and the cycle of destruction threatened to begin anew. Taking matters into his own hands, Haruo flew the last vulture, containing all remaining traces of nanometal, directly at Godzilla. He fired his atomic breath at the vulture, which exploded, burning away the last remnant of humanity's past. Onigoji's sole video game appearance as of this video's release was in an event for the mobile RPG Eternal Linkage. Servum served as end-of-level bosses, leading up to Phileas in the final chapter, with Godzilla Earth relegated to a summon. Godzilla Earth is by far and away the tallest kaiju in the franchise, putting a swift end to the height competition the 2014 and 2016 incarnations kicked off. He is also the heaviest version at 100,000 metric tons, surpassing the 92,000 metric ton weight of Shin's fourth form. However, he is not the heaviest kaiju in the franchise. On the flip side, Godzilla Earth's initial, and Phileas's current, 50-meter height is tied with the original and Showa G's for the second shortest Godzilla, only surpassing Shin's second form. His initial weight of 10,000 metric tons also makes him the second lightest Goji incarnation to appear in a film, only outweighing the TriStar version. That's all, folks.